In this video, we're going to be looking at the area of the circle, and the formula that you need to know, which they don't give you in the exam, is that the area equals pi r squared. So that formula needs to be learned. Put it on a flashcard. On the front, what's the area of the circle? On the back, pi r squared. And what we often find in these questions, first of all, is that they will give you the diameter of the circle, which is the full distance across the middle. Okay, and the formulas that we need usually involve the radius. So we have to divide the diameter by 2 to get the radius. So if this was, say, 10 centimeters for the diameter, we would split that in half, and the radius would be 5. Okay, so how do we use this formula? The area will be equal to pi, which is just a number. Okay, it's roughly 3.14 will do, but pi is just a number, so it's like having 3r squared. And so by BibMass, we have to times by the radius, in this case 5, and squared. We do the 5 squared first, and then times by roughly 3. Okay, so 5 squared is 25 times 3. The answer would be around 75. So we're going to do pi, shift, and then this button here, times 5 squared. Now what you'll notice is the calculator leaves it as 25 times pi, 25 pi, because this number here is much easier to deal with than the decimal version 78.5, and then that number goes on forever. So at the higher levels, we keep the pi there because it will often cancel as we're doing our higher calculations. So your answer may be asked to leave in terms of pi, and all that means is just leave the pi there. Okay, so 25 times pi is in terms of pi, or they'll ask you for some rounded version like 1 decimal place or 3 significant figures, 78.5. Okay, so finding the area is simply taking the radius, squaring it, and then timesing by pi. As we progress in this topic, you may be asked to work backwards and find the radius from an area. So how does that look? Let's say we have an area of 100 centimeters squared, and they ask you, what's the radius? Essentially, what radius would you need to give an area of 100? And in this case, when we look at our formula, this is always our framework for our working out and telling us what to do. Start with the formula and have a look at which things we have and which things are missing. So the area, yes, we know what that is. That's 100. Pi is just a number, like 3. We know what that is. The radius is what we're trying to find. So there's one thing missing from this whole formula. And when that happens, when we have one thing missing, we can actually work out that missing term, that missing variable, that missing letter by doing some rearranging. Okay, but what's good about this calculator and why I recommend it so highly is that we can actually type this formula into our calculator, and the calculator will give us our answer for us, which will help us with our rearrangements. And we can use that for physics and the other sciences as well. We don't have an R button. We have A to F, X, Y, and M. So I'm just going to use X because that's the thing I'm trying to find. So X is a good letter to use. And when I press the Shift Solve button, it asks me, what's the area? 100. And X is the thing we're trying to find. So we don't mind what's in this black bar here. We can just go ahead and press equals. And the calculator gives us 5.64. So I'm going to put the answer here as 5.64 centimeters for our radius. I've rounded that to 3 significant figures, which is a common rounding. And then we can go ahead and do our working out and see if we can get this 5.64, which the calculator's told us is the answer. So A, 100. We replace the A with 100. Pi, remember that's just about 3, and then times the radius squared. Because we don't know what the radius is, we have to leave that as r. Now, if this was 100, let's do this over here, 100 equals 3x squared, which is essentially roughly what this is, then we would reverse BIDMAS. Times by 3, and squared would actually come first by BIDMAS. Think of a number, square it, so square it, and then times by 3. We're going to reverse that process, which is to divide by 3 on both sides, and that will give me x squared, 100 divided by 3. And then we would reverse the square process, which is square root both sides. Now this looks scary at the moment because we've got the fractions in there, but these are just numbers. 100 divided by 3 is roughly 33, and then we're going to take the square root. So let's just try that over here. We're going to divide by pi, the 3, divide by pi, and that will leave us with the radius squared. Let's just see what 100 divided by pi looks like. 31 point something. So 31.8 equals the radius squared. And then we're going to take the square root. I'm going to use the full version. I don't want to use 31.8. So square root the last answer. That's what that button's for. So it remembered ANS is 31.8. I could take the square root of the last answer, and there's my 5.64. So I can leave that here because I know that my working out matches the calculator answer, and I can walk away from this knowing that I've got those 2 or 3 marks in the bag.